Life opens up doors when you truly find your purpose. Know it's so much to explore. Feel less, live more. The world's big, stay the course, cuz. Hey.
Hey guys, what's up? Kelila the Messenger is here. So today we're going to be talking about a very serious topic. Before you jump in the comments, I just want you guys to make sure you're coming from a place of where you're trying to build something here. And it can only be based off of logic. It can only be based off of truth. And we're trying to bridge a situation together. You know, whatever weird stuff is going on in the world today, we want to fix it. So that's where we're coming from with these topics, because we really have to ask ourselves some serious questions, and we really have to tell the truth about it. So I don't want you to go in the comments and just be argumentative for the sake of being argumentative, or because you feel offended by the truth. That's what we don't. We don't want we want you to receive the truth here. And if that's not something that you want to do, we'll see you later, right? Yes, feel free to have your differences, but just make sure you're coming from a point of logic, from a place of rationality. And really, that's all that we ask of you, basically, when we talk about these topics. All right? So should the people of color have done what Hitler did? We are all supposed to hate Hitler because he was a bad person and he killed a lot of people. That's why we're supposed to hate Hitler. We're supposed to hate him, and we're supposed to remember what happened, because it was so horrible what he did, what he and his people did. We understand in a lot of countries, you can literally be put in jail for speaking and pretty much saying anything in opposition of what we're all supposed to believe about that whole scenario. You can even go on Google or anywhere and you'll find that there's very limited information. So all I can tell you is do your research. And honestly, research the research is my advice to you. That's regarding everything. That's regarding anything. So some people believe that Hitler and his people, before they got to the point that they did, they were at a point where they were sick of their government oppressing them. And they had enough. And they said, look, we're going to create our own scenario. We're gonna create our own thing. And we're gonna get rid of these wicked, evil people who are oppressing us. We're sick and we're tired of it. They are merciless. They are hateful. And they're breaking us down to the point of no return. That's what some people allege. They've done research and believe that's what brought Hitler and his people to where they got. And so we say, okay, well, the thing with this one is, okay, I guess technically it's like a white on white crime. This is a horrible thing that happened to, a lot of white people. So that's a Hitler scenario. We understand that slavery is something that's been around for a long, long time, probably since the beginning of time. Just say in some cultures, you may say, hey, for this, you stole this thing. And the law of our land is you don't steal anything from anybody. So we're going to put you in slavery. You're going to do this amount of work for this long, yada, yada, yada. So we've all had protocols in place. And, I would just think of it, just because some people make the argument and say, well, hey, People of color put themselves in slavery first. And it's kind of like one of those things where you say, look, if in the event that that is true, if my teenager son, for example, steals something from a store, and I choose to yell at him from a place of love, I choose to yell at him, I choose to discipline him, hey, these are the rules of my house, and you're not abiding by them. This is your punishment. But nobody else better not do it if it's not coming from a place of love, if it's not coming from a place of understanding, if it's not coming from a place of trying to help him get better. So I can enslave him, but you're not going to do it. So that's the argument that some people would want to start out with. And then you have to say also, you say, well, was it just because somebody else did it? Does that give you, that makes you feel better about doing it? Enslaving people because you say, oh, well, they enslaved themselves first. So, who cares? So see what I mean when I say we get into logic. We're not dealing with excuses. Here, we're not. We're addressing things. And if you call yourself, for example, a Christian, and you say, oh my God, just no kind of violence is the answer. Well, I mean, heck, if you have ever read any portion of the Bible, you understand, even if it's your God. The majority of King David's situation in his prayers was saying, hey, look, give me the strength to put all these enemies under. That's through and through the Bible. And in the name of righteousness, we are getting rid of some folks. That's a fact. You Christians have to deal with. We're not going to make excuses today. Got my guy with me today. Guys, this is Frederick Douglass. This is Frederick Douglass. This is a guy who was, hopefully you know who he is. And so he was enslaved, escaped slavery, and found himself in a position where he was in the Oval Office with President Lincoln, having a mano-a-mano conversation. So that's the strength that I pull from today. That's the type of strength that I pull from today when these type of topics are placed on my heart to talk about. When we think about Hitler and the fact that we're all supposed to hate him, and you say he did these heinous crimes. So I want to describe when I say, should the people of color do what Hitler did? And so here we'll pretend that it's true, and you say, well, man, if he was under a government or under a system that was oppressing he and his people, they were lying to everybody. They were making it so that they couldn't afford to pay their bills or, take care of their family or have any kind of peace or liberty or joy. And these people were not letting up. And something had to be done. Talking to them, it wasn't working. Praying wasn't working. Something had to be done. And so when we say should the people of color have done what Hitler and his people did under the circumstances of slavery? And if you say, okay, slavery, what is that? What exactly did that, consist of? What did that picture look like? These people were dealing with these people of color the white race. People who had somehow convinced themselves that it was okay to beat somebody or kill somebody for looking at them a certain way, for not properly taking care of their child. They convinced themselves that it was okay to throw black women's babies to alligators. They convinced themselves that if you were a man of color and you so much as looked at their precious white woman the wrong way, they had the right to hang you by the neck. Tie you to a tree, and burn you. They convinced themselves that it was okay. And so I'm talking about some of y'all's grandparents, great-grandparents, and great-great-grandparents. So if you were under this kind of oppression, and you're a human being just like they're a human being, and they don't care, they don't care about your begging, they don't care about your pleading, they don't care about anything but themselves. Was the solution really just accept the gaslighting? You know, here, we're going to throw this Bible at you. We're going to change the Bible. And then we're going to throw it at you. And we're going to tell you, look, you know, this is what your God wants. These people are relentless. What people? The white race. The white race. And we're gonna move forward a little bit. We're gonna work our way up to 2020. 2022. We're gonna work our way up. So honestly, if you are logical, there's only one way that you can answer that question. There's only one way that you can answer that question and say, should the people of color have done what Hitler did under the circumstances? What could have stopped these white people generation after generation after generation after generation from killing and beating your people for no reason? Except they were filled with pure hatred. And you had other ones who wanted to help, but understood that, listen, my people are so wicked. I don't want what they are doing to these people of color to happen to me. What's the one thing that they didn't do? I'm going to leave that to your imagination. But guaranteed, had they went that route, lots of generations would have a whole different life today. A whole different life today. This guy, Frederick Douglass, like I said, he got to a point where he's talking to the president. He's talking to President Lincoln. So we understand that with President Lincoln, that, you know, allegedly freeing the slaves wasn't something that he wanted to do. It was something that had to be done to save the Union. We understand that today. We understand that truth. How do we understand it? Because he said it. No debate here, because he said it. So even with the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation, in the 1800s, and then you move your way all the way up to the civil rights movements in the 1960s. These people were still fighting for basic rights 100-something years later. And so the Constitution is something that we in 2022, we're supposed to take it seriously, right? You think you can walk into a court and talk about your freedom of speech? That's what you think? So we get up to the 1960s civil rights movement, and then we're dealing with Kennedy. So it wasn't Frederick Douglass this time. that was talking to the president in the 1960s. It was Martin Luther King. And he was dealing with Kennedy. Saying, look, okay. And then we're dealing with the Jim Crow laws and, the whole separate but equal situation. And so, of course, what we all realize today is there was no separate but equal. The white race said, okay, fine. Okay, we can't just on the record enslave them the way that we want to, because we'll just lose everything. We got to be a little bit more crafty about it. And so they made these constitutions, white people, they made these constitutions and they made these documents and these pieces of paper, and they said things. But when it was all said and done, just say, for example, the Constitution said, hey, you can't, we're abolishing slavery. But at the same time, they said, hey, you know what? We're going to leave it up to the states to deal with it how they want to deal with it. And the states said, you know what? We're just going to kind of leave it up to the people. Meaning, even though you have a constitution, as a person of color, just say if you wanted to walk into a certain business, it was up to that business owner what was to happen. to you or with you. So it was a document that was irrelevant. Hundreds of years later. 100 years later. 100 years later. And then going backwards, you say, okay, so they let the slaves go. But what did the white people? They let them go and then said, hey, we're not even going to give you the whole acre and the mule. We're going to let you work for us. And we'll pay you what we want to pay you. We ain't giving you nothing extra. Pick yourself up from your bootstraps. So it would seem to me that they are pretty much in the same predicament, under the thumb of these white people. If we move forward to 2022, with the whole pick yourself up by your bootstraps, and you say, oh yeah, that was a long time ago. That doesn't affect you guys today in 2022. It doesn't. It has no bearing. We're all equal, except for it's not equal. Just say here I won't even say the state of Texas. I'll say in my county, Tarrant County. Is there a race that predominantly owns everything? That's predominantly in charge of everything? Starting with the courts, the jails, the businesses on the streets, the land. Because when slavery was over and all those people that had this money and this land and all this stuff that they acquired from free labor, they weren't forced to give it back. And so today in 2022, we have those people still benefiting. We have their descendants still benefiting from that horrid situation. So there's no way that you can say, hey, that doesn't affect you guys today. Let's go back to, I don't know if you guys know Thurgood Marshall. And so he was one of the lawyers of color who fought so hard to get rid of the Jim Crow laws. So they worked hard to get rid of the Jim Crow laws, and they used something called it's like the Black Dog test. And they said, hey, we're going to ask, I just want you to see how these children are being affected. Which doll is the good doll and which doll is the bad doll? And the overwhelming response was the bad doll is the black doll. Now, I don't necessarily want to reveal my age, but I can tell you, whatever age it is you think I am, in my subconscious, growing up, let's just say, if you say anything in your subconscious from the time that you're born to the time that you're 7, there's nothing in my subconscious that said, hey, you know, Kilala, you're from a place of richness, and you know, we have this business or that business, and we have this education and that education, and our history shows the greatness of our people. If anything, it's the opposite, right? We have, and this month included, well almost, but we have Black History Month. You were granted a Black History Month to, you know, talk about the slavery and all that stuff. So even as a child, me as a child, you say, oh my God, you know, woof, somehow the people of color, they must have did something wrong, somehow, some way, to be able to be treated like that, and for nobody to have no consequences to this day. I don't even think there's been an official apology. I don't even think there's been an official apology. So we understand, reparations, keep it moving. Keep it moving. And so that's the only issue when you tell people pick yourself up, you know, from your bootstraps. And we understand how important the mind is. We understand the subconscious. You know, people of color, even my generation, the images that we see of ourselves on social media, the truths that we've been given, not so much. Not so much. It truly has been an unfair advantage. Guys, that's just, I'm telling you, that's just the facts. That's just the facts. If you grow up in a household, for example, and you say, yes, you know, our history is going to college, and we do this, and grandma and grandpa own that, and you know, we have these kind of problems that other people can't even imagine, the kind of money that a lot of white people are dealing with. I think today when you talk about shares, I think by the time it gets to the everyday people, you're out of there trying to buy a share into something. The share is when the business very, very gets started. For somebody who already owns a whole bunch of businesses. It's not a chance for them to partake in the scenario. But anyways, to get back on to topic. So we're under this illusion that there's this equalness and there's this fairness. And I think we have to question ourselves and say, hey, you know, are we still dealing with today what people like Frederick Douglass was dealing with? Do we have this illusion to kind of keep people of color at bay? Hey, you have an opportunity, you know, hey, you know, every word, it's not like it was. Be grateful. Move forward. It was kind of hard to move forward if you don't have understanding about the truth, about what's happened to you, about what's happened to your people. And you have people that's alive today that understand that the truth about you is hidden. That the truth about you is hidden. So we haven't even started with the proper apology. And we haven't started with the truth. And so I think that's the problem today. Y'all chime in. Let me know what you think. And I think if you're Caucasian, clearly you're suffering from detachment issues. just like anybody. You say, look, I don't want to have any bad thoughts about my grandfather and great great grandfather and mother. And, I don't want to see them as bad people. That was the law, and they were just falling in line with the law, basically. They weren't so horrible. They loved my dad's dad, and, they worked hard. And, so that's what, for your family and your ancestors, I get that. Just look, that's what I want to believe about my people, Caucasian people. If we get into politics and you say, and actually, believe it or not, and hopefully you guys know, but it was actually the Republican Party. Wait, first, before I get into that one, we understand, I think today it's about 90% of people of color who vote Democrat. I think you got about 60% of the Hispanics. And the Democratic Party, they've gotten so bold today that they'll tell you, hey, you aren't black if you don't vote for the Democratic race or for the Democratic Party. That's pretty bold. They're saying, look, we don't even need to earn your vote. We know you're so stupid, you're just gonna give it to us. And there's truth in that. It was actually the Republican Party. He was a Republican. The little freedoms that we did get, all that came from the Republican Party. And we'll say today, oh yeah, that changed, and now it's switched over to Democrat. And but here's the thing. What are the values? What are the values? This guy right here, Frederick Douglass, he was so serious about his freedom to the point that he escaped slavery. He was very serious about education, self-educating himself. He was very serious about entrepreneurship and business. Those are my values. By nature, I have a conservative mindset. Most people I know do. So at least do a little bit of research. Make somebody earn your vote. That's all I'm saying. Caucasian people, what can you do? What can, if you're on this shit with me and you say, look, all right, it's true. My ancestors, they did that. Okay. I want to help make it right in my own heart and mind and soul. So I would just say all you can do is really just work really hard not to have a bias. When you see, if you say, hey, most of these black people, they don't own anything and they're not hardworking and, they're just less than. I think I saw this thing in one of the magazines and they said the net worth of the people of color was going to be like -0. I'm not even kidding you. They said it's going to be like -0. So just understand that somehow, some way, people like me, we fight really hard to break out of it. Whatever happened to us subconsciously, it's deep. It's deep. It's something you can't even put into words. It's something you cannot even put into words. So judge us, but judge us righteously. Judge us righteously and judge yourselves righteously about how unequal things are today and why they are. And we know it's not that people of color are dumb, are stupid, are lazy. It's true that they didn't get a fair opportunity. Starting with the mind. They didn't get a fair opportunity. They don't get a fair opportunity. So we're going to start looking at the people of color differently in our hearts. I think that's all I can ask of the Caucasian race. And for the people of color, follow me. There's going to be videos. If you have any questions or something you're struggling with, honestly, reach out to me. I'll work with you. Just follow me. And I just want you to think about things a little. Things are not what you think they are. That's why I named this channel The Truth That Lies, because there's this truth that is, it's a big old fat lie. And for some of us, since the time we've been born, it's a lie that's passed down and passed down and passed down, starting with your name. The answer, to these problems, it's not to go around marching and screaming at nothing. Saying how you want your rights and you want equal treatment, marching somewhere and yelling those things out. That's not the answer, guys. If you say, hey, there's a problem with the police department, you guys got to start raising your sons and daughters up to be police officers. You say, hey, there's a problem with the courts. You got to start raising your sons and daughters up to be judges. You say, hey, wherever you see a problem, you got to infiltrate it. Get your conservative mindset back. How are you going to do that? You're going to follow people like me. That's what you're going to do. That's what you're going to do. Because we actually want to get it to a point where things in this realm are equal. Where you can't say there's a superior race that just primarily has power and rulership over everything. And it didn't get that way as a result of fairness, if we're going to be honest about the matter. Should the people of color have done what Hitler did? Under the circumstances. If you're truthful, you know the answer to that. If you're truthful, you know the answer to that. Yeah, this was a topic that was on my mind today, and the truth that lies, guys. So just hopefully I caused you to think a little bit, and we'll have more of these conversations. Let me know what you think. Be mindful about truth. Be mindful about logic in your comments. And these are the kind of conversations that we're going to have to start having in order to shift this nonsense that's going on in the universe today, to heal ourselves, to heal each other, to get back on one accord. All right, till next time. Oh, and make sure that you hit the subscribe button, and that you hit the like button, and that you hit the notification bell so that you can get updates whenever I post another video. All right, see you later.
Life opens up doors when you truly find your purpose. Know it's so much to explore. Feel less, a little more. The world's big, stay the course, cuz. Hey.